Elder. Sharon O.L. Ford.
On time.
Jonetta Monique Abraham. D. Stanley Marshall. Ben George Stanford. Stanley Kelly.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name's Nzali. This is Nzali Takes Africa. If you are a young millennial woman looking to live, work, or play and create the life that she deserves, then this is the place for you. So we have breaking news, y'all. Breaking news. Ghana has released some new requirements for citizenship. And there's a lot of, as we would say, wahala surrounding this, these new requirements, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. The new or the latest announcements regarding Ghanaian citizenship for members of what they call the historical diaspora. So wherever you're watching from in the world, please go ahead and drop it in the chat. I would love to see who's watching, who has their eyes on this conversation. So let's start off with setting some ground rules for this conversation, because I know some of y'all like to get a little froggy in the comments. So this conversation around the new citizenship requirements for the historical diaspora in Ghana, this video is going to be Nzali's opinion, my opinion. Okay, my opinion is based off of my lived experience. Okay, I am a person who lived on the African continent since 2015. Majority of that time was in Ghana. So this is about my lived experience. I want to start the conversation by saying that I am very grateful for the opportunity to have dual citizenship with Ghana. Okay. And we're going to talk about that as well, too, because I feel like a lot of people who are in the conversation don't have a lot of the background context. They don't know the conversations that happen behind closed doors. They don't know why people have feelings about this. So when you just came in, what you watched was my citizenship ceremony that happened in November of 2019 when I became a citizen, shook the hand of the president, got my paperwork. Let me just go ahead and show you. What is that? Certificate of Citizenship of Ghana. My oath of allegiance. So your girl is not just saying stuff. Okay. So that video was that. That was me shaking the hand of the president, taking my oath of allegiance, getting my citizenship. Here's my passport. ECOWAS passport, Republic of Ghana. So when I'm speaking from a person who has done the thing, not a person who's talked about it online, wished about it, hoped about it, all of that good stuff. So I just want to ground this conversation in what the expectation is, what you're going to get from me in this space. This is my opinion based off of my lived experience. I see there's some people who just joined. Let me know where you're watching from. All right, so we all know last week, Thursday, the Office of Diaspora Affairs under the presidency put out an alert that there are new requirements for the diaspora's citizenship. They put those out. I'm going to backtrack before I go forward, right? So I lived in Ghana from 2017 until 2025. So that's a total of 9 years. I became a citizen of Ghana in 2019, 2 years after me moving to Ghana. And while in Ghana, I started an organization called Her Collective with my business partner, Afia Kalia. Her Collective, we would host monthly mixers with the African historical diaspora and Ghanaians to have fun, fellowship, and discuss our cultural divides. We did that for a number of years. We also hosted a number of different types of parties, get together, movie screenings, poetry nights, all that kind of stuff. Concerts, all of that. In addition to that, I also was heavily involved in the education space in Ghana. So what that looks like is that I was an assistant principal at a inclusive school where we advocated for children with special needs all across the spectrum. I also was an admissions manager at Academic City University, one of Ghana's leading STEM universities. And I also was a pedagogy specialist, which means like a teacher coach for Lead for Ghana for, I think, since 2018 up until 2014, I believe. So for a few years. So I have trained over 350 teachers in Ghana, in addition to being a business owner, having a barbershop, and a host of other things. So, oh, can't forget chartering the first chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated in Ghana. So when I talk about being dedicated to living in Ghana and the development of Ghana, that's my background. That's what I was doing while I was in Ghana. Okay. In 2017, when I moved there, there was already a group of people who had gained citizenship under President Mahama, his first term in 2016. It was about 30 something people. And people were really excited about that. There was some hesitancy because some people didn't quite know if it was real. Like, well, is this real? Is this real? Well, the 30 something people who put their name on the list, they got their citizenship. It was real. So when the next president came into, the president who gave me my citizenship, he continued to charge. But not only did he continue to charge, but they made it a global campaign to invite the diaspora back to Ghana. So in 2019, okay, let me go back. 2017, I came, there was a number of meetings. One of the first meetings that I went to about citizenship happened at Jam Rock when Jam Rock was still in East Legon, down the street from ANC Mall. Okay. It was hosted by Dr. Malana. I think his organization was Ministry of the Future, and he hosted a conversation about citizenship in Ghana and what the government is open to doing, and put your name on the list, right? I said, okay. I had just got there in 2017. I said, well, I'm gonna put my name down. It can't hurt me. They say no, they say no. Say yes, to say yes. Put my name down on the list. After that first initial meeting in 2017, I believe it was, then there were continuous meetings. When I say continuous meetings, I mean we were meeting with the head of the Office of Diaspora Affairs. We were meeting at Jubilee House. We were meeting at all these different places. And they were calling together organizations across Ghana that represented the diaspora. So the Caribbean Association, African American Association of Ghana, my organization, Her Collective, because we worked more so with the younger folks. And it was so many, BADA, there were so many different organizations. And in those conversations that happened without cameras, that happened where only the diaspora and the Ghanaian government were seated there together discussing what this year of return will look like, what that means. There was a promise, okay? And that promise was centered around citizenship. On our end, those of us in the diaspora, if we push this thing, year of return, bringing people, right? We want to have something in return. And for us, that something in return is a pathway to citizenship that is not like anyone else's, that is easier. That was the conversation. You want us to promote Ghana? Those of us that are living here and have been living here, because there were some people that were there that have been there 20 years already living in Ghana. What we want is citizenship. Okay. That was the conversation. There was an agreement made that is what we will do. We will honor that. Okay. And so that was the beginning workings of how I got citizenship. Anytime there was a meeting, I would show up. Anytime somebody would say, put your name on a list, I would put my name on a list. In 2019, I got a phone call that says they're actually going to do it. I had to go down to Jubilee, have an interview. I had to go do fingerprinting, get a background check. And I think I paid, it couldn't have been more than like $50. Like, and it was literally just to process my paperwork and my background check and fingerprints. And I only did that in Ghana. Then after that, they gave me another call and said, okay, you've been approved for citizenship. This is the day that we're going to have our swearing in ceremony. That's the video.
Michelle, Renee.
This is the video that you see here. This was the swearing in ceremony, November 2019. Everybody was happy. People were overjoyed. It was like about 200 and something of us. There were people who had been there in Ghana for years, people who were married to Ghanaians, people who had businesses set up there. You see the gentleman standing in front of me with the red hat. He owns a chiropractic center in Central Region. Had been for a long time. His wife is a beautiful Ghanaian sister. They have a few children out there. Okay, so this is what it was. The energy was good. The energy was great. And they acknowledge that this is something that Ghana wanted to do because they understood that we are the historical diaspora. Our misplacement in throughout the Americas is not an intentional separation on our part. And this is almost like a righting of the wrongs, right? There was a welcome home. This was the energy 2019, really 2016 moving forward. Because like I said, I want to give President Mahama his credit. In 2016, he did grant the first group their citizenship by presidential order for the historical diaspora. Now, let's take it all the way back to 1957. Ghana gets its liberation. Because Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, studied in the United States, went to university in the United States, he was able to see, learn, and firsthand experience our fight for liberation in the U.S. He was inspired by Marcus Garvey. He was inspired by the people that he met and that he was able to observe there, the Malcolm X's, the Martin Luther Kings, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So once Ghana gained its independence, when he came back to Ghana, he also had an invitation for the diaspora to come. That's how you get W.E.B. Du Bois living out his final years in Ghana. That's how you get pictures of Maya Angelou teaching at University of Legon. That's how you get pictures of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King in Ghana. That was at the invitation of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who is a known Pan-Africanist. That is the beginnings of Ghana as it is today, 1957, what we know it. So there was a promise. There was a promise in the 60s, and there was a promise in 2019. And there was a promise after 2019, 2020 to 2030 with the Beyond the Return campaign. Ghana's government went to the Congressional Black Caucus, to Essence Festival, to all of these different places, saying to our people in the diaspora, come home. That was the promise. So now we're in 2026, and these are the new requirements for citizenship. I want to pull these up. And I'm going to play the requirements because this is coming from the director of diaspora affairs. So I don't want anybody to say that I've made this up, that I'm misinterpreting. This is coming from that office as of last week on Thursdays when they sent out the email communication XYZ and the third. This is what they said the new requirements for the historical diaspora will be around gaining citizenship. Keep in mind my process. I went to some meetings because we were rallying to petition the government for citizenship. We were petitioning and putting pressure because they had asked us to help with the promotion of the year of return. Those of us who lived in Ghana, we said we would like citizenship. We want something set in stone for us. They said, okay, we pushed the year of return in conjunction with their government. Okay. And people were granted citizenship in 2019. The Beyond the Return campaign started post 2020, is supposed to last until 2030. All I did was attend the meetings, put my name on the list, go for my interview, background check. I was sworn in. No more than $50 because you had to pay for your background check. These are the new requirements.
The Diaspora Affairs Office. Dear Ghanaian citizen applicants, on behalf of the Ministry of the Interior, the Diaspora Affairs Office of the President is pleased to announce that the requirements for obtaining Ghanaian citizenship by historic diasporans have now been finalized. Here's an outline of the necessary documents and steps for the application process. You're required to be 18 years and above, completed application form, your birth certificate, biodata page with a valid passport, proof of legal residence, that's 2-year resident permit, police clearance, criminal record certificates from both your home country and that of Ghana, evidence of strong ties to Ghana, proof of DNA, support your Ghanaian descent, citizenship application fee of 25,000 Ghana cedis. And this is an overview. Submission of listed criteria documents and payments of 1,500 Ghana cedis, that's administrative fee by interested applicants, to the designated administrative center at the World Trade Center. That's on between the 2nd and 6th of February, between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Do note it's the World Trade Center in Accra and not the Ministry of the Interior. Notification of shortlisted applicants would have to complete and submit application forms online. There's also the payment of citizenship application fee of 25,000 cedis and complete vetting. Citizenship orientation process with Diaspora Affairs upon approval of citizenship before induction ceremony on the 5th of March. And please note, we will subsequently invite qualified applicants to the citizenship induction ceremony, which is scheduled for the 5th of March 2026 by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana. Further details regarding the date and venue will be shared in due course. Please ensure that you meet the eligibility criteria and prepare the necessary documents in advance, as fees are non-refundable. We look forward to an opportunity to welcome you as fellow Ghanaians of Ghana. God bless.
So, fellow Ghanaians, all right, just for those who might have missed it, here's some of the highlights. Required documents: completed application form, your birth certificate, bio page from your passport, legal proof of residence, 2-year residency permit within Ghana, police clearance / criminal records from both your home country and Ghana, evidence of strong ties to Ghana, proof of DNA to support Ghanaian descent, citizenship application fee of 25,000 Ghana cedis, that's a little over $2,000, submission of listed criteria documents, and payment of another 1,500 Ghana cedis administrative fee by interested applicants to be designated administrative center at the World Trade Center, February 2nd through the 6th. We had to turn all this in. There's a few things with the new requirements. It caused a lot of uproar within the diaspora community for a number of reasons. I think the first reason is The point, the promise that was made seemingly was reneged on, right? And Black Americans, we love playing spades. To renege in spades is like the worst thing you could possibly do. So what it felt like seeing those new requirements felt like a reneging in a spades game, right? You promise one thing, you do another. That's the feeling. That's the emotional part. Um, the second thing is, and why do people feel like it was a reneging situation, is because when we had those conversations 2015, 2016 going, and even before that, because there are plenty of diasporans who have been petitioning for something way before that, since the 90s, I think even before then, we were asking for a citizenship process that was easier than the standard citizenship process that other people go through, because we are the historical diaspora. According to the African Union, we are the sixth region of Africa, right? Our placement in other places was not a voluntary thing. It was not by choice. It was by force. So now we would like to return. Okay. Ghana acknowledged that. I mean, recently they were going to put up a case for reparations, right? So you're acknowledging that there was a wrongdoing. You're acknowledging that people were misplaced because of the wrongdoing. And you have acknowledged that as a country, you want to be the leading force on the African continent for these people, our people, to return home. Okay, so the process was supposed to be easier. That was the promise that was reneged on. The second thing that makes it offensive is that it seemingly is unobtainable based on the timeline that was given, right? So these details came out January 29th, which was on a Thursday last week. Documentation of all of these things that they wanted people to turn in was supposed to be turned in between Monday, February 2nd through February the 6th, right? Let's look at those again. A completed application form, you could do that. Your birth certificate, most people don't have their birth certificates on hand. That means that they would have to order a copy from the United States of their birth certificate from Thursday and hope that it gets to them by this week, Monday through Friday. That's not obtainable. Passport pages, you can get your residency, you can prove police clearance from your home country and Ghana. Well, it's easy to get the one in Ghana if you're living in Ghana, but to get your criminal records or certificates or police clearance from the United States, you would need more than a week to do so and then get it to Ghana. Evidence of strong ties to Ghana, that could be marriage, business, whatever. Okay, cool. Proof of DNA to support Ghanaian descent. That's the one. Okay. I have taken the ancestry DNA test with African ancestry, where they get you down to the tribe, right? My paternal line is Akele out of Gabon. My maternal line is Yoruba out of Nigeria. That test takes weeks to get back to you. There's no way you can get that from Thursday of last week to Friday of this week. And then we have citizenship application fee of 25,000 Ghana cedis, a little over $2,000 that should be paid, someone being alerted on Thursday of last week to Friday of this week. So all of that made it seem unattainable, which people took it as disrespect. The third thing is that it felt like this is just a money grab, that Ghana is not really offering itself up to the historical diaspora as a whole. It's only certain type of diasporans that they want, right? And I have long time said this, that I do firmly believe that Ghana is interested in big investment and not small business investment. And I stand by that 100%. In addition to that, it felt like a othering, right? It did not feel like a we really want you here. It did not feel like a welcome home. It feels like you want to be here so bad. Okay, we'll pay this money and show us that you're Ghanaian, prove to us that you're Ghanaian. When the whole point of the historical diaspora is that the person may not have physical bloodline ancestry that runs through Ghana. But the truth is, when people were running people through those slave dungeons, some of those people didn't have historical bloodline lineage to Ghana, but they came through Ghana's shores, okay, to going out to the Americas. So all of that is what caused the uproar, what caused the negative feelings about this process. Okay. And I do understand that the Ghanaian government wanted to come up with a way that formalized this process so that it didn't just seem like, oh, some random people now have citizenship. However, the requirements that were outlined go against the promise. I talked about the promise from before, the promise from 1957, the promise from 2016, the promise from 2019, and going. It goes against that. And so that's why the diaspora was so offended, so much so that a coalition put out a statement about it. And people in the diaspora said, well, let's just boycott Ghana. None of us should apply. None of us should apply. None of us should engage. And I even saw some people taking it a step further and saying none of us should engage in tourism for Dirty December and all of that type of stuff too, because this is a slap in the face. So with that, the government came back and they have offered up a temporary suspension of Ghanaian citizenship application process for historical diasporans. It appears that they want to review, right? This is the document. Okay. Um, Ministry of Interior and the Diaspora Affairs Office of the President wish to inform the general public that the current application process for Ghanaian citizenship by historical diasporans has been temporarily suspended. This pause is a part of the joint institutional effort to further streamline and enhance the overall experience, ensuring that the process becomes even more accessible, efficient, and user-friendly for our brothers and sisters across the diaspora. Both institutions remain fully committed to welcoming members of the global African family home and are working collaboratively to introduce refinements that will make future applications smoother and more seamless. Revised timelines and updated guidelines will be communicated in due course through official channels. We appreciate the continued interest, enthusiasm, and cooperation of all prospective applicants and look forward to resuming the process shortly. That was the statement. Um, Unfortunately, the damage has already been done. When you showed it, like I said, when you go to a spades game, we're playing. You say you don't have no more diamonds. 3 hands down the line, you throwing out a diamond. You've already showed us that you're not trustworthy because you reneged. You've already showed us that you'll lie. You already showed us that you'll say one thing, do another. So people now have it in their mind that this is what it is. And so I am happy that they are taking a step back. They're pausing. I'm hopeful that they will revise some of those requirements that were put out in this new citizenship requirement mandate. And I hope that they will make good on the promise. Now, I can't guarantee that people in the historical diaspora will feel differently. Like I said, to some people, the damage has been done. And I do want to address some of the things that I've been seeing in comments. Like I've heard, I don't know if these people are Ghanaian or not. I can only tell you that they appear that way from their social media handles, by name, pictures you can see, et cetera, et cetera. I've heard people say it's almost like you all feel entitled, right? And what I would say to that is there's a difference between like entitlement and just doing what should be done, what's right, right? So like the example that I gave to my fiance was, okay, if because let's do the numbers. What I said to him was my great grandmother was born in 1908. So her mother and her grandmother would have been in slavery, right? I knew my great grandmother. She passed away when I was in middle school. Okay. So being that I knew someone personally who assisted in taking care of me, and she could have known a slave or did know a slave, that was only 5 generations ago. It's my mother, my grandmother, great grandmother, great great, great great great. That's 5 generations ago. That's not that long ago, right? So if a Nigerian 5 generations has lived in Germany, right? Not that they wanted to live in Germany, they were taken forcibly and relocated to Germany. And 5 generations later, that child wants to go back to Nigeria. Are they not entitled to that? If a guy 5 generations ago, if a Ghanaian were to have gone to the US and 5 generations later, they wanted to go back to Ghana, would they not be entitled to that? So when we're talking about the historical diaspora, and keep in mind, I'm in my late 30s and I knew someone who would have known a slave. People who are in their 50s, 60s, they might have met somebody who was a slave or right outside of slavery. My father, my mother, my grandmother, those people would have known people who would have been enslaved Africans in the Americas. It's just that close. So, should those generations of people, now that we're here, 5 generations out, 6 generations out, 7 generations out, so that should that seventh generation not be entitled to go back? And when they go back, should they be treated like someone who has no ties to anything of that lineage or that space? So when we start talking about that, we have to really think about what we're saying. The other part that I've heard is, well, the US um, has people come and apply for citizenship and they deny people all the time. There's a difference between this and this. Okay. Systems of America rarely have anything to do with this. You can tell that by our treatment in that place. So when you're talking about, well, my cousin, my such and such got denied citizenship to America, that ain't got nothing to do with this. We don't have anything to do with that. And most of the time, we don't like that process. There are many of us who speak against that process. There are many of us who are marrying people and bringing people over, trying to make ways through that process. Okay. So you can't conflate this with this. It's two different worlds, right? It's two different worlds. Another thing that I've heard is, well, if you wanted citizenship in Portugal or Spain or Brazil or wherever, you would have to pay for that citizenship. That would be so. However, two things. None of those places have made a global public appeal to invite us there. That's number one. Number two, none of those places made a promise to us. Number three, none of those places have labeled us the sixth region of Africa. Number four, we don't have no connection to no Spain, to no Portugal, to no, well, some people in Brazil, are African, but those of us in the Americas who are in US have no connection to that place. When we start tracing our lineage, it all comes back to the African continent. So we expect nothing from those people because they are not us and we are not them. But there is an expectation from people who are of us. Okay. Whether your bloodline lineage goes into Ghana or your people were transported through the dungeons of Ghana, coming from different West African countries. So my final thoughts on the situation is, I think this new mandate was a big step backwards in relationship building between the historical diaspora and Ghana. I think a lot of diasporans have moved in good faith with wanting to return back to the African continent. I think there's going to have to be a lot of repair to kind of rebuild some of that trust. And I'm very hopeful that the diasporan groups on the ground in Ghana continue to push the government to treat us better and to have requirements that are more suitable for our unique circumstances in our group of people. Specifically, I would like to see that DNA test be removed. I think that is such a slap in the face, and I would love to see that one in particular be removed. I also feel like the non-refundable 25,000 Ghana cedis plus another 1,500 should be reduced. When I got my citizenship, less than $50, and I was literally just paying for my background check. That's it. When I look at this list, everything else seems reasonable. Of course, you want to make sure people's criminal history is in good standing, right? Of course, you want to. I mean, I can even understand the birth certificate, right? Proving where they were born, fine. The application, the valid passport, even the residency, 2 years in Ghana, I can understand that. But that DNA test and that fee, I think that's not going to fly. So if I could put a petition out to the Ghanaian government, fellow Ghanaians, my Ghanaian government, I would say revising this, taking that fee and that DNA test off would be a great next step. I'm hopeful, being that President Mahama was the first person to issue this type of presidential executive order citizenship. I think that hopefully his current administration will share the same sentiments of those in 2015 and 2016 and make it right. That's all we can ask for, is that they make it right. And if for some reason my fellow Ghanaians don't make it right, my diaspora brothers and sisters, there are other options. It's just that simple. There are other options. If you desire to be in Africa, there's 53 other countries. Currently, I'm in Kenya. Find somewhere else that you feel is more engaging and more in alignment with what you are trying to do. I have hope that Ghana's going to make it right. But just in case, there are other options. Nowhere that you go, you should feel the way that it felt when that type of mandate came out. And I'm just going to leave it with that. There's more I could say, but I'm going to leave it there. So I would love to know how you all felt about those requirements that came out. How do you feel about the temporary suspension? What do you want to see the Ghanaian government do? Are you still interested in coming to Ghana with this type of newfound energy with this administration, or are you looking elsewhere? Let me know down in the comments. I had to come on and do this one because it was such a hot button topic that it had to be addressed. As I said, I'm grateful for my Ghanaian citizenship. Very thankful for that. And I'm hoping that the pathway to what I have received is still going to be open to other diasporans, but in a way that really makes sense for our shared history, past, and relationship. That's what I'm hoping for. Okay. Yeah, I'm really, really hoping that that can happen. All right. So until next time, I will see you all later. Have a good one and stay blessed. Bye.